Now imagine this bottle of water here. This is your life. So every time you interact with somebody, you kind of pour out a little bit into their cup. Now, eventually your cup is going to be empty and there's nothing left for you to pour out. So then you go to sleep that night. That sleep fills your cup back up, but it only fills it up to here. Self-care is what brings you to the rest.
That's great.
Here's the thing. If you start your day here, Mark, now I'm empty earlier in the day. Now I'm going to go into a deficit. So then when I sleep, it's only going to fill me up there. And now I'm really in a deficit. And then I'm going to fill me up here and then here until eventually I'm starting my day with my cup empty.
Well, we're back here with Jamie Morgan again. Jamie and I try to talk frequently, and I always enjoy the conversations. I get a lot out of it, and I hope the visitors and viewers get a lot out of it too, but I definitely enjoy our conversations.
Yeah, I do as well, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
So I want to touch on your background because I remember I've heard this story a little bit, and I think, and I don't want to be wrong about it, I just want to ask you your background, but you started counseling, I don't know if it was a social work type thing, and you progressed your career to where you are now. So why don't you just give a quick overview of your background and how you got to where you are?
Yeah, so counseling was never in the cards for me. Like that was never even on my radar, right? And I had been married to my wife for my 6 years, maybe 7 years almost, right in that area. And we were going to this church, and I had taken some self-improvement classes, right? So I did this thing called landmark education, and it really just kind of breaks down who you are, how you got to where you're at, And look, Mark, it made a lot of sense to me, right? It made a lot of sense, and I thought, man, this is good stuff, and I noticed a change in my life by applying some of the principles that I learned. Clearing up my thinking, having a strategy about how I'm going to attack life. And I thought, man, I need to tell other people this,
Good.
Right?
Yeah.
So I started doing, just some life coaching type stuff. And I think everybody who has an opinion can call themselves a life coach. So, whatever, right? And that's no offense to life coach, but you know what I'm saying, right?
Right.
Just like everybody with a pickup truck is a contractor.
Yeah, exactly.
And like it's the same thing, right? It's like, I got a pickup truck, I can do that. So, which is, by the way, I did that too. Yeah. So I'm doing some life coaching and stuff, and we're going to this church in Maryville, Illinois, and it was Time Change Sunday, 2009. So March 8th, 3/8/2009. And we go to the 9:15 Sunday school and then the 10:30 church, and we're on our way to church, and we notice that there's people stopped on the side of the road, and then we turn the corner to get to the church, and all the exits are blocked by either police cars, ambulances, or fire trucks. And it's like, man, what's going on here? Well, as it turned out, a mentally ill person came into the church that morning and shot and killed our pastor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, his name was Fred Winters.
Oh.
And it was tragic, right?
Yes.
Just absolutely tragic. And, I'd been leading some classes at the church, right? And the pastoral counselor who helped Fred actually start the church and build the church, right? So they've been friends, 20, 30 years, whatever. I mean, it's been a long time. He asked me if I would help out with grief counseling because I'd been leading some classes in church. I'm like, well, I don't know much about grief counseling, but I'm happy to help, right? And so Billy Graham has a rapid response team anytime there's a major tragedy, so tornadoes, just anything, whatever, right? So they'll send a team out. Well, they sent their team out, and a lot of what their team does is they do grief counseling training, right? So that the church can kind of help themselves, right? Like, because they're only there for a few days, then they're going to go back to where they got to go, and then you do what you do. So he asked if I would help, and I attended the training, and I helped, and I enjoyed it, right? Like it just came natural to me to talk things through with people. And so then the summer comes, and he said, hey man, I want to take a sabbatical. I'm gonna leave. I need a break, which is again understandable. He said, would you mind seeing my clients for me while I took the sabbatical? And I said, well, listen, I'm not a counselor. I've only got a bachelor's degree, but I've done this other stuff. He said, that's no problem. As long as you work for the church, you can still see people, and it's okay. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's fine. I'll do it, whatever, right? So I saw people over the summer, and I saw people into the spring or fall. I mean, so summer and fall, and I'm gonna tell you, I was making a difference in these people's lives, and they were happy to see me. They got a lot out of it. And I was just driving home one day. I had like really good sessions in a row, right? I mean, I remember had to be like October-ish, right? Because it was like rainy, kind of chilly. But I remember I was driving home, and we only lived probably 8 minutes from the church at the most, right? And I'm driving home, and I just remember thinking, like, man, I was made to do this. Like, this is what I was made to do. So I got home, and I started talking to my wife, Sandra, and she's so awesome, man. She's so gentle spirited and kind and so encouraging. I come home and say, I gotta tell you, honey, I said, I think this is what I was made to do. And she's just like, yeah, how do we do it then? How do you make money at it? And I'm like, I have no idea. Let me figure it out. So I start researching on them Googles and on them interwebs, and figured out that the only way to take insurance and to become a licensed therapist is to get a master's degree in counseling.
Right.
Okay, I want to do that. Right. So I found a school that I wanted to go to, and I applied to that school, and I started classes in the fall, I guess it would have been, of 2010, and graduated in the spring of 2013. And then that's kind of where I got my start. And then, I started, in order to get licensed, you got to do 3,000 hours of supervised counseling. 1,200 of those hours have to be direct counseling one-on-one, and the other 1,800 hours have to be what they call indirect, right? So that could be self-study, that could be continuing education classes, that's your supervision, all that stuff, right? So I did that from 2014 to 2016. I got fully licensed in 2016, and started counseling at the church I was going to out here. As soon as I got licensed, the pastor of the church was like, "Hey, you want an office at the church?" And I'm like, I mean, I don't know how much. How much? He said, "No, free." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I'll definitely want an office at the church, right?" And so I moved my practice over to the church, and I was there from beginning of 2016 through. Well, to the beginning of 2018, and I was working full time at the VA and seeing clients in the evenings and building my caseload up. So built my caseload up, and decided in May of 2017 to go counseling full time and leave the VA. I put my 2-week notice in at the VA and started full time counseling in June of 2017. And boy, I didn't miss a beat. I from the salary that I lost versus the clients that I gained, I had never missed a beat. And again, that's pretty fascinating, right? So by the October of 2017, man, I've got a full caseload, so I'm seeing 42 people a week, which is a lot. That's probably too much. But I was seeing 42 people a week, and I had 16 or 17 on my wait list to come see me. And I was like, man, I might need to do something different here. I might need to hire someone to help me see these people, right? So Sandra was driving home from being out in public one day, and downtown, and she passes this older building that's being remodeled, and she stops in just to say, hey, like, what's going on here? Because they had a for lease sign, and it was this couple. They're maybe 10 years older than us, but there's this couple that is remodeling this building. And as they started talking, it was really interesting, right? They're like, yeah, we've just been praying for the right people to show up here. And we think that they called the building, now this is really interesting, Building 41. And that's in reference to the Bible. The Jewish people, Israelites, were in the desert for 40 years, right? And then Jesus was in the desert for 40 days, and but that 41st day always comes, and that's when things change. And so they called the building Building 41, and we started renting from them. And I hired 2 therapists at that time, and then hired another, and then rented more rooms in that building, and then hired more, then rented more rooms and hired more. And then we moved over to our location now where I have 12 or 13 therapists that work for me and 3 support staff. And yeah, man, it's been quite a trip, dude.
Good. You touched
Yeah.
on something that I can relate to, and that is that when you were helping people, you got a good feeling, a good vibe for it. It made you feel good about what you were doing. And obviously, I'm not a counselor or a therapist, but with Take 2 Minutes, I definitely get some of those same feels because people do reach out and I really appreciate the help they're getting through the service. So different but similar. I can relate to that because that's what kept me going with Take 2 Minutes is just that continual feedback from people that it's helping people. It makes you want to do more with it and help people more.
You know, I gotta tell you, man, I think all humans, we're not made to be alone. We're not. We're made to be together, and we're made for community, you know. And man, when we isolate, that's so bad for us.
Right.
You know, like that looks. A lot of mental health has come from the COVID stuff.
I was going to ask about that because you had to see an increase in clients, patients, and needs during or after COVID.
It was insane. Like, you know, our phone we've never had a problem keeping clients in, but man, during and after COVID, we can't keep up. Like, we really cannot keep up. Right. The demand is so high. It's unbelievable how much.
So with all of your experience in schooling and helping people, what do you do for self-care to help yourself stay in a good place?
Yeah, so it's interesting that you bring up self-care because that's not just for me, man. That's for everybody. Like everybody needs a self-care routine.
Correct. I believe in that.
And you know, I have this little photo thing here that I like to show people, and I'm just going to read it to you a little bit if I can find it right, since I can't share since you're the host. It said, in therapy, I learned that this is a risky form of self-care, and it has going out for walks, a little piece of the pie, and then art is the big piece. Because if that one big thing gets taken from you or becomes an obsession, now you're left with almost nothing that's truly yours. So I'm working on making my self-care a rainbow. And in that rainbow, it has art, meditating, lifting weights, window shopping, swimming, crossword puzzles, scrapbooking, and going on walks.
That's your personal one?
No, that's just something that I share with people.
I see. Yeah, I get it.
Self-care has to be diversified. It can't just be, I go for walks, or I lift weights, or I work out here every day. Because what if you're in a car wreck? Well, now you're not going to work out and you're not going to get to, now what are you going to do for self-care? Right? So you have to have things. Now here's how I think about it. Now imagine this bottle of water here. This is my hydrogen water bottle, by the way. We could talk all about that and the benefits of that, but that's for another conversation. So imagine this is your life, okay? So every time you interact with somebody, you kind of pour out a little bit into their cup.
Right.
Okay. Now, eventually your cup is going to be empty and there's nothing left for you to pour out, right? So then you go to sleep that night. That sleep fills your cup back up, but it only fills it up to here. Self-care is what brings you to the rest.
That's great.
Here's the thing. If you start your day here, Mark,
right.
Well, now I'm empty earlier in the day. Now I'm going to go into a deficit. So then when I sleep, it's only going to fill me up there. And now I'm really in a deficit. And then it's going to fill me up here and then here until eventually I'm starting my day with my cup empty. A lot of people think that self-care is selfish because listen, here's why. Well, going to the gym takes time away from my family. Reading a book takes time away from my family. Going for a walk takes time from my family. Watching a movie I like takes time from my family. But see, I look at self-care as being selfless. Because if I don't do self-care, I'm not worth a crap to you.
Right. That's what I was going to get to is I think for myself, my self-care helps me have better quality time with my family when I'm with them. So I think it improves the quality of that time.
That's right. So now we're in a conversation of quality versus quantity.
Right.
Yeah, I spent 10 hours with you today, but I was a slug on the couch and not present and just kind of zoned out and blah, 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 blah. Or, yeah, I spent 6 hours with you today, but man, we rocked it and it was a good day and we had a lot of good conversation and blah, blah, blah. So what do I do for self-care? I play ice hockey. I know I'm old, but I play ice hockey. I go ice skating. I golf. I read. I do a red light sauna. I drink hydrogen water. I eat nutritious food.
I think that's important for a lot of people too. We get caught up in the processed food, and I think processed food can play havoc on your body. And I think your gut's a big part of your mental well-being, how your gut health is.
So it's interesting, right, that you say it that way, right? Because the research is what the research is showing now. I mean, again, we're just at the tip of the iceberg with understanding the brain gut connection. Just at the tip of the iceberg here. But there is so much information coming out about that gut health and brain health connection.
Right.
Oh, I mean, it's really remarkable. You know, you don't like, okay, so like one of the guys I love listening to is, and he was just even talking about alcohol. He says, man, if you're going to do something, smoke weed or do a psychedelic, right? Because alcohol is poison.
It'll kill your gut bacteria too. It destroys those gut bacteria. Yeah.
Well, think about it. When you get a sore, what do you pour on it? Alcohol. If you're going to get a shot, what do you do to clean the area? Alcohol. Now we're talking rubbing alcohol.
Right.
But it's still alcohol nonetheless. It's just a higher proof necessarily, right? A more pure alcohol. So alcohol is poison, man. So if you're feeling depressed, well, the last thing you should be doing is drinking. That's the absolute last thing. You know, even, you know, going back to the COVID years, right? I was really shocked that no one was saying, dude, get outside and go for a walk.
A lot of people picked up walking at that time, but I'm sure that people weren't announcing to do so for mental well-being purposes.
Right. Like what was the message was stay home, stay safe. Man, no. Go for a walk, get some sun on your skin, get that vitamin D, get that serotonin pumping, get those endorphins pumping, dopamine, right? Now look, man, your brain and body, it's its own pharmacy.
Good quote, yeah.
We don't need, now again, we can go way down a rabbit hole here, but like, you know, you've heard of the placebo effect, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so what is that?
The idea you're going to feel better because you think you're going to feel better. So if you're given a drug that it could be a placebo, it could be a sugar pill, but you're told it's going to help something, mentally you think it's going to help that.
And then what happens?
It's really, in that case, it's your mind making you think it's happening, right?
Oh no, it happens.
Because your mind, yeah, it's not because of the sugar pill you're taking, but because, which sugar pill's a bad example because sugar's terrible for you too, but another conversation.
But if you believe it.
Yes, if you believe it. It's all about believing it. Correct.
You believe it's going to help you? I promise you, it's going to help you.
And that's a interesting point you make because I tell a lot of people words have meaning. If you tell yourself negative things all day long, you're going to feel worse about yourself. And this is a whole different topic we should touch on another conversation because I know we're running out of time here. But you know, just what you said, how you think, how you feel, the thoughts in your mind all play a big part in how you feel about yourself.
So the Bible says that the power of life and death lies in the tongue. Now, whether you believe in the Bible or not, that's irrelevant. Let's think about that statement for just a second and the power of words.
Right.
So they're positing that you can either create or destroy with words. I think there's something to that.
I do too.
Right? What's interesting is the psychology of it. I can think something, it's not really that big of a deal. It's not great, but it's not that big of a deal. But if I think it and then I say it and then I hear it, now it's reinforced. Now I believe it.
Believing is the key. That was what I'm going to get to. It's the belief that's the key. You can say something and not believe, and it's not necessarily going to help you, but it's getting to that belief state. And maybe it's saying it, like you said, multiple times, saying it, hearing it, and I guess what'd you say? Thinking, saying, and hearing is enough to make you start believing.
That's right. So like one of the guys I really like, his name is Joe Dispenza. Man, that guy he's amazing. You should look him up sometime. Like the stuff that he has, believes and understands about neurology and neuropsychology, it's unbelievable, the stuff, right? So when you think about, though, this whole idea of the placebo effect, why do we need medicine at all then?
Obviously, there are some medicines that help people in certain states to get out of something that they are having trouble with. I mean, insulin, people who are insulin resistant do need certain medications, but there are a lot of medications. There are a lot of things you can overcome on your own. And we can go down a whole rabbit hole on this and my beliefs of the healthcare system over medicates to keep you medicated. So you need more medication.
Well, yeah, because there's no money in a cure, right?
There's no money in you being healthy, correct?
There's no money in that, right? So, but again, like you said, that's for another conversation. So the power of words. I heard this guy say, "Hey, you want to change your life? Okay, here's what you got to do. If you're right-handed, wake up in the morning and brush your teeth with your left hand. So now you're rewiring things. So because you got to think about what you're doing. It's not just autopilot, right? When you're done, look in the mirror and look yourself in the eye and say, I love you 30 times.
30, that's a lot.
Look in your eyes, though. Don't look, because man, it's hard. Look in your eyes. I love you. And then do 30 rounds of box breathing. And exaggerate it. So box breathing is 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 seconds out, 4 second hold. And exaggerate it.
Okay, so we have 30 times of saying I love you, then 30 seconds of box breathing, or 30 times of box breathing? 30 boxes?
30 times of box breathing.
Okay.
It'll change your life. Do it for 2 weeks and tell me how that happens. Tell me what changes. You're going to feel a completely difference about yourself.
We're going to say I love you in the mirror, looking at the mirror 30 times, looking at yourself in your eyes, and then box breathing 30 rounds of the box. Okay.
After brushing your teeth with your opposite hand.
Yeah, well, that's right. I forgot about that one. Correct.
That's important, man, because you got to think about what you're rewiring things, man. Because you get in front of a mirror when you wake up, you're like, I'm just thinking, I'm on autopilot. I mean, it's just going. Right?
No, so positive thoughts, telling yourself I love you is part of what, positive psychology. You're rewiring your brain, your neuroplasty to have more positivity in it. And that's a lot of what Take 2 Minutes focuses on, is the positive psychology and neuroplasty and rewiring your brain to help with those things. So I'm going to try the I love you and box breathing. I'm familiar with box breathing. It's one of the exercises we have in Take 2 Minutes. It's a box breathing exercise. Yes.
That's right. And look, the gratitude journal. So I want to touch on that for just a second, because what I was thinking is, and this is one of my quotes in my book, what you focus on will fill your field of vision.
Okay.
Okay. So what you focus on is what you're going to see. So if you're looking for how bad the world is, I promise you're going to find reasons for how bad the world is.
Correct. Yes, easily.
But if you look for how awesome the world is, I promise you're going to find reasons to say the world is awesome.
I believe in that too. Yes.
Right. So what you focus on will fill your field of vision. Now let's get to the gratitude log. Now, I'm not sure exactly if you have any rules about it. I have rules whenever I assign a gratitude log for people.
Okay. All right.
5 things a day, every morning, no repeats for 30 days.
Okay.
So it has to be new stuff, right? I love that. And you have to reread everything that you've already written before you write down your next 5. Here's what that does. The first few days, I'm thankful for the sun, and I'm thankful for electricity, and I'm thankful for the wind, and blah, 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 right? But after about 5-6 days, you're like, man, what am I thankful for? Oh, I know. I'm thankful for the way that my dog looks at me and gives me attention like I'm the most important thing on the planet. I'm thankful for my son, who I don't have to worry about, who just takes care of things the way you see. Like, you start really honing it. I'm gonna tell you, you'll know that you've hit gratitude when you're moved emotionally.
Repeat that last part. When you're what?
When you are moved emotionally.
I want to make sure everyone heard it. Okay.
That's how you know you've landed. You're like, okay, now I'm in gratitude. What that does is that primes you to be in gratitude all day. That's why you do it in the morning. Okay. Now, priming. What color car you drive, Mark?
Black.
Okay. So your black vehicle, we won't get into any specifics, I understand, right? But before you bought that black, whatever you own, how many of those did you see on the road?
Infrequent.
Not too many, right? But once you bought that sucker, you're like, this is unique. This is the only black one of these I've ever seen. You're driving it home, and what do you notice?
Other black ones that are like your car. Yeah, you start
They're
seeing
everywhere. You're like, what the crap, man? Everybody has a black one of these? Are you kidding me right now? Your pump is primed to see that now. So what happens? You start seeing it.
Right.
That's what gratitude does for you.
Yeah. This analogy, just to be clear, is once you start gratitude journaling and recognizing gratitude, your pump is primed, so you start seeing it everywhere.
Everywhere.
Yes.
Everywhere. Right.
And to that, I want to touch on, I think, something really unique about Take 2 Minutes. I keep going back to Take 2 Minutes, though, and I've heard many people say they're not good at gratitude journaling. And through some research and talking to users and different people and even therapists like yourself, I learned some people want to gratitude journal, but aren't good at sitting down and thinking of things they're grateful for. So I created that gratitude challenge for those people to start becoming familiar with gratitude. And I think the unique thing about a gratitude challenge is it sends you something to think about gratefulness. It gives you a topic and gives you a reason to be grateful for it, and then asks you to think of your own reason to be grateful for that. So it's an editor mentality. So someone who can edit text, the gratitude challenge is good for them because they can start editing a sentence I give them and make it their own unique sentence. And that gets them accustomed to gratitude journaling in a course of 7, 10, 12, 14 days. They can do it as long as they want to. But ultimately, the goal is after about 2 weeks of a gratitude challenge, you're off. You can keep doing it on your own then past that.
That's right. Yeah. The challenge with gratitude a lot of times is people like, well, I don't have anything to be thankful for.
Right.
I know you feel that.
Yes.
I got it. I hear you. And I know it's hard to be grateful for things when it feels like nothing's going your way. But that's where you change your destiny. Right in that moment, you say, well, hold on a second. There's got to be something I'm grateful for. There's got to be something I'm thankful for. And then you start looking. You start noticing, man, I am thinking that is kind of good. That shift, man, that changes everything.
It does.
All right, man.
I appreciate the time as always. We have to go to lunch now. There's our thumbs up for the day and fireworks. Look at that. I appreciate your time as always, Jamie. I look forward to the next conversation.
It was fantastic, man. Thanks again, man. I love talking about this stuff, man. Have a great day, Mark.
You too. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening. I hope you found that discussion helpful and interesting. If there are any topics you would like to hear discussed, head over to take2minutes.org and use the Contact Us form to submit your suggestions. Also, if you appreciate our content, sign up for an account at take2minutes.org. Subscriptions help us to continue generating new content. Thanks again.